Doesn't seem like Ron Weasley was able to handle post-Hogwarts life very well. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2023 psychological horror film, Knock at the Cabin. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Knock at the Cabin stars Dave Bautista, Jonathan Groff, and Ben Aldridge, and was directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Based on Paul G. Tremblay's 2018 novel, The Cabin at the End of the World, it tells the story of a family who find themselves held hostage by a group of strangers attempting to prevent the apocalypse. The release of a new M. Night Shyamalan movie is always an event. Whether it's a good event or a bad event remains to be seen until the movie's seen, but it's always an event nonetheless. I'll admit that I tend to like Shyamalan movies more often than not, and while his last film, Old, wasn't particularly well received by critics or audiences, I actually thought it was pretty interesting. I definitely had some problems with it, but again, like Shyamalan's filmography, I liked it more than I disliked it. But I recognize that it's the intrigue of the premise that typically keeps me on board with Shyamalan's movies. It's the story hook and the promise of an unexpected twist or thought-provoking resolution. So when I saw that he was going to be giving us his take on a Cabin in the Woods movie, I was looking forward to it. So I want to start by saying that I haven't read The Cabin at the End of the World, which is the novel that this film's based on. After watching the movie, I did look up some of the changes that were made, which were pretty substantial, but going into the movie, I knew nothing beyond the trailer, so I didn't have any preconceived notions or expectations, from a plot perspective at least. At first glance, Knock at the Cabin seems a bit tame and straightforward for Shyamalan, and I suppose, at second and third glance, it remains so. This is a film that feels a bit uncharacteristic for him. Basically, a cabin in the woods home invasion thriller. But just because it's uncharacteristic doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes a simple premise can be the most effective for a horror or thriller movie. This film possesses the type of story that can often be most chilling, because the situation the main characters find themselves in is within the realm of possibility. This straightforward home invasion hostage premise works to the film's advantage, at first. With that this could really happen element adding to the chills, this is actually a very tense film for much of its runtime. The characters and motivations are unsettling, and the story really sets us up to root for the family at its heart. There are some iffy and eye-rolling aspects to the plot, and the dialogue isn't great, but this is a Shyamalan movie after all. As the film progresses and things escalate, the seeming straightforwardness of the story will have you trying to piece things together and attempting to figure out exactly how certain events are happening and how everything's gonna play out. So for much of the film, things are actually pretty solid. Although the premise and twists are what we usually remember Shyamalan's movies for, his films are generally pretty character-focused, and that's the case here as well. In fact, this might be one of his most character-driven films to date. Knock at the Cabin has a fairly small cast. The story centers around a family on vacation, and the film does a pretty good job of making us care about them, by essentially letting us get to know them a little. But the manner in which that was done was a little clunky. The film uses a flashback structure exclusively for this purpose, and it's not incorporated in the best way. It gets its intended job done, but it also disrupts the tension of the main story, so I'm not sure a non-linear approach was the right move here. As far as our other characters go, the four antagonists were fine, though Dave Bautista is really the only one who makes a lasting impression. He gives a good performance here as a mysterious and soft-spoken character who just exudes unsettling and untrustworthy vibes. Despite a creepy Bautista performance and a strong premise, Knock at the Cabin, like many Shyamalan movies, unfortunately falters with its script. There was so much potential here. So many directions the story could have gone, both straightforward and twisty. And it just goes. I'm not going to spoil anything, especially since even fans of the book will be surprised by the direction this takes, but it was a letdown for me. This film takes on some pretty heavy-handed religious tones, which is fine in and of itself. The problem is that despite clearly aiming for a higher level emotional response, it doesn't seem to have an intended message nailed down. There's a little bit about family, there's a little bit about faith, a little bit about fate, but it's all extremely muddled. And there's a very suspect takeaway from this film that I can't imagine was intended in the way that it comes across, but it nevertheless taints the ending of the film. Knock at the Cabin has some really good elements to it, but stumbles by the end and can't quite stick the landing. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is the premise. Shyamalan always seems to be able to grab me with his story hooks, and Knock at the Cabin is no exception. Unlike some of his more out there story ideas, like the accelerated aging beach of old, this film has a pretty straightforward premise, focusing on an unsettling home invasion at an isolated cabin in the woods. Now, there's more to the story when it comes to the motivation, of course, but the basic plot here is an effective one. The second pro is the tension. Maybe it's because we're on edge waiting for the standard Shyamalan twist, or maybe it's just the realism of the situation, but for much of its runtime, this is a genuinely tense film. The introduction of the antagonists, especially Dave Bautista's soft-spoken Leonard, is unsettling, and things don't get any more comfortable as we learn about their mission or their motivation. There's also just something about this could actually happen thrillers that immediately boosts the tension. On the con side, the biggest issue is the script. This is definitely not a new problem for Shyamalan-penned stories, but this one has a few different levels to its issue. Where the story ends up going is a bit lackluster, but the muddled messages and thematic takeaways are problems as well. The dialogue is also a bit rough at points, but I do think that particular element of the script was at least a tiny bit improved when compared to 2021's Old. The second con kind of falls under the umbrella of the script con, and is the structure, specifically the use of flashbacks and the nonlinear quality they bring to the film. Now, I think nonlinear storytelling can provide a really interesting perspective for a film, and I totally understand the intentions behind its use here to provide us with a little more insight into and time with the central family in the story. These flashbacks endear them to us and make us care about them, but the structure of the flashbacks was just clunky. They feel randomly inserted, and so they actually disrupt the tension and the flow of the main story. A little restructuring could have gone a long way here. Before I give you my rating recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Knock at the Cabin or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Knock at the Cabin 3 out of 5 paws. Although it's a little atypical for M. Night Shyamalan, the slightly more straightforward premise here is very tense and effective. Dave Bautista is wonderfully creepy in his role, and the movie has hints of thought provocation, but script issues ensure that this one doesn't quite stick the landing. I would recommend Knock at the Cabin to fans of M. Night Shyamalan. Anybody who likes his films will find aspects of this movie enjoyable, especially the character centricity and aspirations for more profound meaning. But it's definitely a different type of movie for him. It's probably best to try to go into this without preconceived notions, not only regarding the story, but also regarding what you expect from a Shyamalan movie. If you liked Knock at the Cabin, I would recommend Signs. Although the plot is quite different, leaning heavily into sci-fi thrills, this early Shyamalan film has some similar religious overtones and themes regarding faith and family. If you're interested in another M. Night Shyamalan movie in which the characters are in isolation, you might want to watch The Village. Religious themes thread through this film as well, plus the plot revolves around a mysterious and fear-inducing entity, though the ending of this one is more typical of the director's trademark twist style. And if you want to venture outside of Shyamalan's filmography, but still feel like a tense, family-based cabin-in-the-woods horror story, you should check out The Lodge, which should satisfy your cravings for chilling atmosphere, supernatural creativity, and twisty unpredictability. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Knock at the Cabin? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie set in a cabin? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.